The death.
We're in trouble here. He's much worse. Will you call some friends and pray for him?
The hospital staff said that your son was not expected to survive. Use the word miracle.
Your son had a near-death experience.
He saw things that I can't really explain.
I lifted up and I looked down. Mom was in one room, we were in another room yelling at God.
All right, joining me now is the director of Heaven is for Real. He also directed Braveheart, one of my favorite movies of all time, Randall Wallace, and the real-life father and son that inspired the movie, Todd and Colton Burpo, with us. Guys, good to see you. I read this book when it first came out. How many, what is like 40 million copies? It's ridiculously successful.
I think it's about a fourth of that. We're getting close to 10 million.
Okay, but in all languages and
Well, if you probably go all languages, you've passed 10 million, yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. This happened to you. I guess the main question is, and I've read all the life after death books where people come back to life. Describe the experience. I don't even want to taint it in any way. I want you to tell us in your words what happened.
Well, I got really sick. Had to go to emergency surgery, and during that surgery, I had a trip to heaven. And
I had a trip to heaven, no big deal. I went to Colorado, heaven, you know. And what was it like?
Well, heaven is such an amazing place. And you just want to be there for a long time. I mean, I didn't want to come back.
What's the difference? In other words, what did you see? What did you feel? Who did you meet?
Well, I saw a lot of stuff. In heaven, there are a bunch of colors, but there's even more than we have down here on Earth. Also, I got to meet my great-grandpa and my sister who was miscarriage, and it just feels like home.
And she came up to you. Are you there physically or spiritually?
You are there physically. You do have your own body.
And so you were there in your body?
Well, not in my earthly body. They were working on my earthly body.
Right. But it was the same. You'll look the same? Relatively speaking?
Relatively speaking. If you die an old man or old woman, you'll be in heaven in your prime, like late 20s, early 30s.
And you say that you met Jesus Christ and God. Can you describe God and Jesus Christ?
Well, Jesus is more like the humanoid version. He's the one you can relate to because he loves you so much, and he's actually your size, so you can actually like walk with him and talk with him.
And you talked to him?
Yes.
And he talked to you?
Mm-hmm.
And what did he say?
Now, I can't remember what all we talked about, because a lot of it he even taught me, but God has not allowed me to remember what Jesus has taught me.
What about God? You saw him?
Well, God the Father is just so huge. There's nothing to compare him to. He's big enough to fit the whole world in his hands, so it's hard to describe.
How can you see that? You actually saw that?
Honestly, I don't know how to describe it.
Animals, plants, relatives. All right, so all of a sudden, so he comes back, starts telling you things he couldn't have known, including the sister that was miscarried that he met there, and your grandfather, right? And you're saying, wait a minute, how did he know this?
Yeah. You know, when you have a 4-year-old, there's no way that they have the capacity to take you on long journeys and make up things and you not to be able to know that they're making it up. When he could talk about his sister, when he could talk about my events where I played with my granddad when I was a little kid, my granddad was
with
killed in a car wreck.
specificity.
Yeah, with specificity. He died in a car wreck before I turned 7. And then to talk about where I was in the hospital, there's no way. And
You described exactly where you were. You saw your dad and mom, right?
And I think this movie will do great because you're going to see in this little boy on this screen pretty much what I saw 11 years ago. And God's going to use that to really work on your heart when you see this.
All right, I can quote Braveheart by heart. I drive my family nuts. Braveheart is on. And unite us. I start going through the whole line by line, and they're like, shut up. So you're one of my favorite directors of all time. Oh, thank you. You took on this project. You wouldn't have done that with all the movies and all the success if you didn't believe it with all your heart.
Yes, and I related to it, Sean. It's like a few Christmases ago, I wrote a company commander in Afghanistan and asked him to tell his men that if they would send me the name and address of the person in the world that they most loved and honored, then I would send them a signed first edition of a novel I'd written called Love and Honor. And over 90% of those young combat Marines sent me the name of their father. And this movie to me was about a father and a son. It was about a man. This guy's not only a minister, he installed garage doors, he coached wrestling, he ran a softball league, he did everything he could in his community to be with his people. So when his son starts telling him a story that's literally beyond comprehension, his instinct was to love his son, to fight for him, and to wrestle with what did it mean. And as a father myself, I thought that's a story that every man wants to see.
It's going to be incredible. Anything else you could tell us? Do you think everybody goes to heaven?
No, not everybody does go to heaven.
How do you know?
Well, the thing that I saw in heaven was everybody there loved Jesus. I mean, God really does love you, but we're too attached to things on this earth, and they aren't allowed in heaven. But once we love Jesus and we follow him, it's easier to let those things go, and we can enter heaven.
All right. And they're guarding the gates, you said. All right, well, the movie opens Wednesday. On this Holy Week. So, very nice to meet you. I love the book. I'm looking forward to seeing the movie. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Big fan. And thanks for being here. Appreciate it. And coming up more, Hannity, coming up right after this break.